Hello, my fellow readers. It's I, Dark Symphony 7 with another fan fiction reading. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story, any future fan, and I need to stop saying any future fan fictions on readings. I'm only going to be saying those on reviews from now on. So, I am reading a story called They Call Her Ruby, but it's written by 22. It's a Ruby Gloom FanFiction. I never heard what. I'm kind of curious. What is Ruby Gloom about? Some kids might be afraid of the dark, but Ruby is different. She befriends strange creatures like Doom Kitty, Skullboy, Misery, Boo Boo, and Mr. Buns. Okay. It's based on the Mighty Fine Wait, this is a TV show based off a clothing line. Ruby Gloom has a stationary line. So this was basically just based on stationary things? Okay. Okay. That's fine. This was suggested by the author himself, so shout out to 22. But seriously, don't send me. I want to at least want to let you know. Don't send messages that come off as demanding me to read these. You ask. You don't demand. You ask. Don't make me get the Scottish accent on you. That's so disgusting. I'm trying too hard to do the Scottish thing. It also helps my throat is very irritated. I was talking for like 2 hours straight for the Mario Party thing. So let's get started. Over the town, just past the foothills, on a clear, cloudless night, you just might be able to make out the highest room of the old O'Donnell house. The O'Donnells were once the most powerful people in Ulster, rivaled only by the mighty O'Neill clan. Okay. The mansion was constructed by an overseas branch of the family in the early Victorian era, at the cost of thousands upon thousands of pounds, and several unfortunate workers. Perhaps they built it to distinguish themselves from the ever-discriminate Catholic Irish. Perhaps as a way to gain an advantage and show a might against the O'Neills. Perhaps simply to display their wealth. No one was quite sure. A winding roof and stylized tower is a symbol of a bygone era. A simpler time when Glenmill was simply the mansion and its estate, long before the mines came. If you asked any local, they'd say the house was cursed, the legacy of the dead workers never fully leaving, or perhaps Native American land. Ancient burial grounds disturbed in the construction, some sacred land disturbed. Some even thought the O'Neills had something to do with it. An act of petty vengeance. If you ever asked one of them, they quickly deny it and spout some nonsense about O'Donnell corruptions. Regardless of your belief in divine constitution, it seemed a string of bad luck had hit the residents. Stories were passed down of dead children and unfortunate actions throughout the estate's life. The oldest brother of the family died in 1889 of scarlet fever. Both of his sisters struck by typhoid in 93. 2 newborns died under odd circumstances, turning blue and stiff before they had ever grown. And a visited uncle fell off the balcony and broke his neck for reasons never quite known. This string of events continued until, one day, the patriarch of the mansion died without an heir after contrasting the pox. Even the O'Donnell house abandoned. The surviving relatives overseas were too busy dealing with the war to bother with some stuffy mansion of days past. Perhaps it was symbolic of the town as a whole, left to rot, dying. Glenmill wasn't exactly what you call a... Sorry, oh god, my throat was so irritating. I had to actually stop to get something to drink. Where was I? Yeah. Glenmill wasn't exactly what you call a boomtown. I'm sure, back in my father's time, it was quite a sight to see. When I was a lad, he spun terrific tales of the glory days. Nearly 5,000 residents making a living off the booming bituminous business. Okay. The hustle and bustle of the coal industry brought some degree of excitement to each day. Then the coal vein ran dry, far sooner than anyone had expected. I still recall those months. It was like someone had flipped a switch. Construction projects were canceled, the mines closed, and suddenly our little offshoot of the main highway was nothing but a detour. Superfluous, no longer needed, just some creepy old town no one cared about. Perhaps the curse of the Glenville estate never truly left. After all, a young French girl who was foolish enough to wander in fell down a collapsed floor and died back in 1954. And so, the last in a long line of miners, I was reduced to working at Askell's old family store. Askell had never married. Local town gossip said he was queer, but you didn't hear that from me. Okay? Now, don't misunderstand my intention. There's nothing wrong with the counter business. Hell, it's probably safer in the long run. We all know about the risk of mining, a dead uncle or a lost brother. But see, this. Suddenly, all those I had known as rough and tumble miners suddenly looking for work in stores, lumber yards, out of town, scrambling and twitching much like a fowl with its head removed. It's a slow death. And then came the day when the Benji's youngin, Arno, came home from the well. There's a girl in the hills, he proclaimed, much like the sailors of our past, spinning stories of sirens sighted on shoals, tempting them to follow, but ever distant. The child told of a figure no more than 5 feet tall, lurking near the old O'Donnell house. Of course, that was no cause for concern. Children see strange things all the time, especially around the O'Donnell mansion. My father once told me of a story when he was 7, and had apparently seen a banshee on the first balcony, clad in a blue veil, and staring off into the void before disappearing into the mist. Maybe I should ask for the pint of ale to go along with the tears from the banshee's face. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist dipping into the Scottish accent again. I couldn't. I'm sorry. He wasn't the first person to see strange things by the mansion, and he wouldn't be the last. Simple imagination. Then came the music. It was but a few days later, and suddenly people going to the area, people of all ages and constitutions, heard it. A cello. The soft, somber notes of a cello were said to echo through the valley. A Tuesday well party reporting the sound of music emanating from the roof of a mansion. Of course, not everyone heard it. Some days, all it seemed you could hear was the gentle whisper of the wind. Souls of the past, that November witch blowing through the air. Then came that fateful Friday, when the patriarch of the O'Hay family... O'Hay? Okay? Came from the well, concerned with his normally stoic face, practically bursting into the tavern, screaming out what he had seen. There's a girl on the roof of the O'Donnell's place. I saw her. She was riding a tricycle or something, right there in the open, plain as day. I swear on my life. Concerned mothers rushed home to check on their wee barns, giving a warm hug to the daughters once they were certain they were safe and sound. The men simply laughed. Every child in this town was scared to death of the mansion, and besides, it was Martin O'Hay, notorious drinker. This was the same man as who, 18 months prior, had claimed to have spotted a cyclops by the lake after drinking some particularly strong peat. This was a man who didn't exactly know the meaning of moderation. Askell was the only one who listened. Him and O'Hay going back quite some time. The two of them wandered back out into the hills, a twinge of concern filling me as they walked out into the night. The place was still, they calmly stated once they returned nearly an hour later, not a sight or a sound to behold. The roof was clear, not a thing under the moonlight, and not a sound to be heard. O'Hay refused to admit he was mistaken. I was sober, he proclaimed to no one in particular, striding back to his house distraughtingly, and no one listened. But the mysterious figure never seemed to leave. Every day the men would go out to the well to fetch the water, and every day more of them would provide some degree of corroborating detail. Angus was the first. In the window, he spoke of her bright ruby-red hair, which he had only caught a glimpse of. Askell asked, he and his wife had seen a figure sitting on the edge of the old roof, playing that cello tune once more. Neither had gotten a good look. John was daring enough to venture inside the O'Donnell place, something no one had done since the death in 54. Even the non-superstitious knew the building was unstable. Of course, he didn't bring a camera. Sheen was never a bright one, but he sighted a figure. A ghoul, he proclaimed in the Glenville Tavern at night. That was a ghost, staring down at me from above. Ghost to the O'Donnell children, I tell ya. Some men said she hovered above the mansion. The spirit of the past come to return to the land of the living. Some of the more skeptical ones suspected the local youth might be playing tricks. I myself thought it'd be a trick of the light, some force of science misleading the masses. Wait, is this a girl actually narrating this? I don't know. I probably talk a little bit more than switch to the Scottish accent. I was one for strong constitutions, a free thinker in the modern world. I wasn't going to fall down for such slim shawl. Until, of course, she walked into my shop. I was sitting at the counter, counting the minutes until 21 hours when my working day would finally come to a close. When all of a sudden, the faint cling-ching doorbells rang. I looked up. Walking in was a girl, or a woman. Soft pit-pat of her high heels riverbed through the empty building. Her hair was bright red enough to make an Irishman blush. On her body, a single-piece dress, black as the night, its entire bottom rim jagged like the rocks of the foothills. Her legs were clad in bright red and orange stockings. Her figure was thin and decidedly female, but her aim seemed difficult to decipher. I wasn't sure if she was 14 or 22. Her appearance was so odd. And her skin, true to the word of Crazy Sean, her skin was pale as the moon was white. A corpse, a doll, a maiden, a spirit. These were the things coming to mind as she slowly shuffled forward. She turned away, as I took a closer look at her. Her deep voice and cold manner interaction were that of a woman brisk with age. Her stature spoke of youth, and a quick glance revealed neither apple bosom nor plump cheek. Alright. She appealed flail, ghostly. Was this the ghost of the O'Donnell's child? I pondered. The dead indeed risen from some unholy task. I held firm, too scared at unleashing its wrath to move. I simply watched as it slowly went from aisle to aisle, slowly collecting goods as she went. Liverwurst, mint jelly, white rice, a bottle of unflavored tonic water. She never smiled, not once, simply holding an expression of gloom on her face. As she turned back towards me, her small bundle of groceries tight in hand, the fear of 1,000 childhood ghost tales come back to me at once. Fairies, banshees, skeletons, the creatures of the night, and the souls of the damned. A feeling of regret at selling my grandfather's cold iron spiked pendant came rushing back to me as she walked up. Hello. I gulped. So no aspiration, no trick of the Constitution. A mysterious maiden had appeared in my very store, and had just spoken to me. Her left hand, thing and ghostly right, slowly extended outwards toward the center. Was this a curse? I asked Melisum, long-dead O'Donnell. The revenge of the young French lass. As her hand unspooled, I eyed what lay inside. Over a dozen old pounds and shillings, some predating the war. I breathed a silent sigh of relief. No hexes were to be cast upon me today. Will this cover it? She spoke, her voice hauntingly cold. Now, while I'm not the shrewdest of the merchants, I'm not usually one to accept foreign currencies. But in this moment, with it being a girl I had once filed alongside the Yeti and the Wendigo in realms of believably was now standing right in front of me, I wasn't going to be picky. A quick mental calculation I had learned from John down the road confirmed it. She did indeed have enough money. Yes, I stood it out, slowly extending my increasingly twitchy hand. She dropped the coins into them in an almost mechanical motion. To my shock, her hand was extremely soft to the touch, despite being frail as a Frenchman was smooth as silk. I gasped slightly as the revelation. My stress was at an all-time high. Like a worker responding to an overheated boiler, it jumped into action, rationalizations quickly popping into my head. She's from out of town. She's probably just one of those weird counterculture girls. Nothing to do with the goal of O'Donnell. So, I spoke out a little too quickly, trying to ease the situation. You new around here? I suppose you could say that. Her words were blunt and cold, like an automaton. Okay. Nothing inherently weird about that, I thought to myself. My racing heart finally starting to calm down as I tried to find a space for the pets in my register. We don't get many visitors around here these days, not since the mine's left. Her quiet and cold demeanor held firm, my brain struggling for things to say before it finally clicked. Hey, how old are you? I asked. I can never seem to remember. I stepped back slightly, mildly disturbed by the statement. Looking over her once again, they were indeed small breasts on her frail frame, and those here were not one of a wee lass. Still, putting an exact age on her seemed a difficult task. You here with family? Moving in? I live alone. I'm happier on my own. I found it hard to believe she was happy in the slightest. Her frown remained firmly frozen in place. I had heard nothing of anyone new, though, and Angus was always eager to mention new developments. Poor Lai was still hankering for the golden age of the mines, always praying a new vein of black gold will show itself and restore them to their glory. Where you live? You staying at Willie's hotel or... I trailed off, and expecting an answer, I finished tallying the money and passed her groceries back. The mansion, she stated coldly, as if it was the simplest statement in the world, before turning around and shuffling away, paper bag in hand. I gasped. It was her! Celagul, the O'Donnell ghost, the witch of the valley, the bitch that had been the intrigue of town for over a month. It could be no one else. Wait, what? Missy, that mansion is unstable. It's unabandoned. It's unsafe, I stuttered out. Less out of true concern and more out of a morbid sort of primal fear. She turned at the noise, her cold, oddly marked eyes meeting mine. I know. The word seemed to last an eternity, before she turned around and walked out of the shop. It was a long evening at the tavern that night. It seemed as though the entire village had become split on the issue. Most of the women simply laughed, dismissing them as tales of the land sailors. Perhaps fumes from the marshes were getting to people, no different than stories of sea serpents and rogue waves. The husband's tale. The men were also somewhat debated, but not as to whether she existed or not. No. All doubt of that was erased the second I stepped into the pub and backed up what Sean had seen earlier with more detail. No, this debate was to the nature of this gloomy one. A ghost? A ghoul? A vampire? Some prankster? A witch? Some drugged-out runaway? No one was quite sure. We didn't even know if she returned. Or if this was a simple ghostly visit that had concluded. Unfinished business, thusly done with. I myself was convinced she was part of this plane, for no fairy nor spectre I was aware of required itself a standard meal to survive. Of course, I was never the expert on the supernatural sort, so I silently hoped I wasn't mistaken. I hoped it was behind us. That is, until the very next day, when I myself paid the trip to the well, and sure as rain, the somber notes of a cello echoed back through the valley. I didn't dare enter, though. Not alone, anyway. I wasn't that bold. I simply walked past as fast as I could, not looking back once. And after that, I mostly retreated back to my store for a while, seeking some degree of normalcy back after everything that had happened. But you can't exactly return to handling change when the creepy pale-faced something has taken up residence in the abandoned mansion with the dark past. That's never a good sign. Why, the very next morning, the O'Reilly brothers strolled into my shop. Not for crackers and pork chops, no. Simply start asking about her. God, what of the spectre do you see? They asked, stroking their unwashed beards. She was a witch, wasn't she? Calder would pesteredly ponder, forcing me to lean back in stress. His brother Galvin would surely follow, his own theory of ghostly vengeance coming out. "'Tis the French girl who died in '54, he say, referring to the unfortunate accident of days past. Come back to haunt us for not keeping watch. I told her mom that girl was troublesome, but she didn't listen. I had no cause in it. She ought to leave me be." I sighed. I didn't want to think about it at all. Though every man in town knew that Calder was an idiot, it didn't lower my discomfort. Ever since the ruby-haired one had made her presence known, Emma had entered a feverish state not seen since the heyday of the mine. This pattern of questioning and conspiracy continued for the next week, slowly simmering with time. John suggested it might have been hysteria, too many drinking and worrying getting to us. Till Monday, when she came back. Once again entering my store, I stared, though much less shockingly than before. Tip, tap, tip, tap. Once more, she swayed back and forth, her frail form marching slowly across the store. Bread, rice, sausage, jelly. Yet more items entered her sheet white hands as she marched back, like a reaper shuffling forward. No words were shared as she handed me yet another assortment of coins from the days of my grandfather. The fear, not just of her, but of what exactly her presence would bring. As she turned, trotting out the door once more, I finally got the guts to ask, "Are you... You're not a ghost, right?" She turned. No smile, no expression. How could I buy groceries? I was a ghost. And then she left, once more, out into the street. Except, not quite. As she walked down the crumbling main street which reeks of better times, a shrill voice cried out, "It's her! The ghoul! The ruby-haired girl! The ghost!" Various men and maidens down the street hollowed out. Mr. Hohay simply stood there, too drunk to tell if what he was seeing was truly there. Esco tried in vain to ask questions, getting close enough to speak, but too frightened to reach out and touch. She simply marched on, back over the hills, toward the O'Donnell house. She was one of those modern punk chicks, probably goes there to do poetry and some foolish thing as such. No mortal has skinned that pale. Abundance exists, called her. Did you ever read? Bull! Tavern was not fun that night. No one could relax with a cold one when every man, maiden, and beast in town seemed content to holler and rabble about the ruby-haired girl. I sat there on the cold leather, drinking my shaky hands as I tried to drown out the noise of Angus and John arguing with the O'Reillys about her very nature. Poker was cancelled as Askell and Jock decided they'd much rather argue on the level of sunlight leaking through the estate's roof than deal cards. The climate in the tavern turned rough as the evening turned into the wee hours of the morn. The increasingly inebriated folk getting ever ready more rowdy. I butchered that sentence. Someone threw a chair. I'm not sure who. Though I bet on the O'Reillys. Next thing you knew, it was like hell itself as written within the hall. The patriarchs of the O'Hays on the floor, Askell screaming names as Reillys reached for the nearest blunt object. Something poked my neck. I flinched, half expecting some spectre or fey to be behind me. Perhaps the ruby-haired one. To my thankful surprise, it was Sheen, ducking down slightly to avoid the building chaos. He paused for a second to breathe, fully ducking under the chair as the O'Neills broke out into a full-on fight. I say we go down to the mansion ourselves. Right now. He looked behind his back, probably checking on the state of the fight. There's two of us. One of us can go get help if a float falls or something. Come on, Frazier. We gotta get some answers. The sheet will never stop. Deep in my heart, I knew he was right. And so, quiet as a mouse, we slinked out the back door. Any noise we made drowned out by the rowdy crowd and the fight in the front. I peeked back one last time. Angus was winning. I don't know who Angus is, but he's probably like stereotypical don't piss off that Scotsman. I nailed on it. Have you ever really took a moment to smell a marsh? Imagine the smell of through a thunderstorm. The smell of fresh earth, the smell of fish, and a fart. All mixed together. Okay. That's a creative way of smelling a marsh. Thunderstorm, fresh earth, fish, and a fart. Okay. That's what the whole of the valley smells like. Even if one you were in didn't have a marsh in it at that moment, it just sort of permeates. The grass was damp, and we walked forward. My pant was slowly dampening with each step. Sean looked back at me, fear practically radiating off of me. There it was, the old Donald place. The three aging towers stood over us like a dark horse, begging for the damned and doomed to enter its accursed doors, aged and mildewed. We took a quick glance at each other before thrusting the doors open with a squanch. The smell of mold hit my nose immediately, followed by an odd scent, one I couldn't quite recognize. The halls were gray with age. Rainwater pooled up the base of the main stairway. Music. There was music audible through the hollow halls. Not the solo hood by the Wellboys, no. It was almost that of circus music. Except with an indescribable darkness to it. A corruption that has swiftly entered and darkened all within. Well, no going back now. Sheen slowly spoke, taking small steps forward. The corrupted circus music only got louder as we ascended. Each step was slow and careful, unsure if the ancient stairs were about to give out and send us falling. Finally, one last step here. We were there. It seems we have visitors, Mr. Benz. That voice. She was here. There she was, on a small black chair, a coy pose on her body in that old, cold expression. Next to her was a phonograph, the gentle music of the dark circus emanating from its turntable. Stern about were a variety of small ragdoll puppets of all shapes and sorts. A human, a horse, some indescribable black beast. In her hand, she held a small puppet of something resembling a rabbit. The ruby-haired wonderment, the gloom ghoul, the punk of Glamel, was indeed right in front of them, playing with dolls. It's Shin whispered under his breath, taking a step back. The spirit! Oh, it's you. You tried to sneak a few days ago, she calmly and coldly stated, standing up from her chair after taking a moment to set her ragdoll down. You know, it's generally considered impolite to sneak up on a girl. Sheen stuttered, caught off guard. It's generally considered bad form to live in a crapper like this alone. Holy hell, what are you doing here? The ruby-haired girl pondered for a second. You said hell? What of it? She stared coldly into the void. That's where the things that follow me come from. I'm not sure if they're real, but I can always see them. Sheen went quiet, visibly freaked out by the statement and slowly backing down the stairs. I turned back to the girl. Her face twitched for a moment before turning to me. You're the shop owner. Last time I came down from the mansion, seems I caused quite the fuss. Sorry about that. What's your name anyway? I can almost swear her frown deepened for a second. It's not relevant. Rose, call me as they please. Sorry, I stuttered out, not wanting to anger it. I just wanted to call you other than Igumgul, she asked coldly. I panicked for a second. Was she reading my mind? Before quickly realizing she had heard it during her last trip down. Well, I like it. Stuck. That wasn't the reaction I expected. What? I came from the darkness. I thrive in the darkness. I enjoy being called such things. Well, I actually was going to call you the ruby-haired girl, but if you... Ruby. She paused for a second, turning briefly back to her dolls. Ruby Bloom. I like it. Okay, Ruby. I choked out, swallowing a gulp that had been building up for some time in my throat. Me and Sean came here too. He left. I turned around. True to the witchy woman's word, Gina had flown the coop and was nowhere to be seen. Word, I mumbled under my breath before turning back to her. Look, my name is Scott, and we're all just kind of wondering, why do you live here alone? Surely you know there's other places to be. I'm never truly alone. She gestured back to a small group of rag dolls. My puppets and I are quite alike. We are comfortable here. They do not smile. I do not. But they are happy. Are you happy here? I asked her with a slight stutter. Of course, she calmly spoke, gesturing me to look over at the balcony. A conspiracy of ravens and a murder of crows had collected along the edges in rows. Look at them. The birds. They certainly enjoy my puppet shows. She held out her hand, a single raven landing on her arm. Tell me, Scott, have you ever seen a raven smile, dance for joy, and prance in wonder to express its happiness like some nymph of the forest. Well, well, no. They feel no need to smile. They're simple, and as they are, she turned back to me. They live in the darkness. They enjoy the darkness. They are like, we're happy on the inside. So happy we could die. A thought occurred to me. Lives in darkness, thrives in darkness. You aren't some kind of vampire, are you? You're human, right? Vampires aren't real. They have far more teeth than them. Okay, I paused, unsure if it was a rise to press further. Rows and rows of them. I gulped. Do you want some company? One is indeed a lonely number, she cryptically mumbled, before looking back at her dolls, and the various birds watching. But I am never alone. Not really. Ruby snapped back to me, her expression unchanged. Go. Your friend is waiting. I didn't stay to argue, turning to walk down the crooked stairs and catch up with Jean and give the bastard a good kick in the head for running off, when her voice spoke up, one last time. If you see any blank tentacles, just at the edge of your vision, don't stop. She paused, giving out a slight sigh. I don't know what would happen if you let them catch up. I didn't wait around to find out. Not for 1 minute more. I turned around and marched right out the door, out into the damp valley to begin the trek home. Town truly turned a bit darker that month. No one in Glamel could forget her. The one they called Ruby Gloom. They called her Ruby Gloom. Um, hmm. Let's see. In case you didn't catch on, this fic, this is what I'm referring to as Classic Ruby or Angst Ruby, the original portrayal of the character from 2001-2004, for the first person essentially retconned it out of existence and became the new stand. I don't know much about Ruby Gloom. I'm actually gonna look her up. Let's actually have a little fun. How far are we have? Okay, so all right. Let's look at her. Um, is this the okay? Is this like the? Is this what she's supposed to look like? Like I don't. The problem is I don't know if this is if that's the original or it's actually okay. Let's no, I don't want that one. Um, okay, let's look up Ruby. Okay, so I don't. I don't know where. I don't know what. Is there any pictures of the original? I have no idea. Um, original. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's like a different. Like, I don't know if this is the actual picture. Um, like I wish she had a picture of what she originally looked like, because I don't. Is there like some kind of? Is there some kind of original picture with her? Like, I don't. Um, like classic Ruby, like classic Ruby Gloom classic. Like what? The problem is I don't know what she looked like. This is her original look, based on like the end of the author notes. Like S. Tasty. Because he was originally a sketch. Like, okay. So I'm guessing I don't know much about Ruby Gloom. I'm actually just weighing it before I even rank it. I thought like they would be like a different design. Okay. Okay, I guess fine. On a scale of 1 to 5, I would actually give this a 5. This was a legitimately phenomenal story. The decision to make this first person paid absolute dividends. If this was third person, it probably wouldn't carried as much weight as it should have. It had a classical story to like a Scottish folklore vibe to it that kind of made it really good. I like the whole setup. Like, there's a girl at the old O'Donnell estate, like setting everything up, playing like into the mystery aspect of is she real, is she not, and everyone kind of paranoid with this town kind of slowly falling apart because of the mine collapsing. I think it's a really good story. I didn't see any problems with it. I guess it's some kind of like weird origin story, maybe sort of. I don't know much about Ruby Gloom. I never heard of it until just now. But it's a 5 out of 5. It's phenomenal. The storytelling is nice, especially without the slashing. Like, that's fine for what it is. But I really like the story. It's really fun. It has a sentence of like you're reading an actual Scottish story, like an old Scottish folktale, and it like of the fairies, like or the nymphs, or maybe even dryads. I think dryads or Scottish lore too. I don't know, but as it is, it's actually really nice, especially since based on what it says, like this is like angsty Ruby, so like I'm guessing like he wanted to use the original personality and not the new personality because it I guess ruined it. I don't know what that's about. But I do like the story. I do like the pacing. Everything kind of flows in like I don't know how many times I have to say this. It does read like a classic a classic fairy tale, like a classic folk tale, and it's amazingly well done with the plot, the characters, and the presentation. Everything 5 out of 5. This has been that is my reading of The Color Ruby, and this has been Dark Symphony 777 and cut.